Hello, everyone. I am Robyn Rush for KCrush magazine based in Dallas, Texas. Today, I have a very special interview for you all. Joining me today is actor and producer Sean Dulake, CEO of Third Culture Content. You may know him from Dramaworld, Operation Chromite, Blood Free, Daejungwon, just to name a few, and most recently Butterfly, which can be found on Prime Video. Hi, Sean. How are you today?
Hi, how are you, Robin? It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure to be here to interview the one and only from Butterfly playing Hollis. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
So to give you like a rundown of like some of the questions I'm going to be asking you today, we have two like subsections. So we have industry focus about you and your career as well as your time on Butterfly. And then we have some fan focused questions, some questions that some fans might want to know. All
Sure,
right.
I'm here for all of it.
Let's go. All right. So the first question I have is so you've acted, written, and directed. Which role feels most natural to you and which one pushes you the most?
Good question. I like to add value to any project that I can that makes the most sense. I love acting, is always going to be my first love. Directing is, I would say, of all the roles, directing might be the most difficult. I've only done it once, and I think directing, there's one, if not maybe two directors per project, and you're really in charge of everything. You're running the ship, and um, it's a very demanding, all-encompassing career path. You look at some of the biggest directors ever, and sometimes you'll look up their credits and it's like, wow, they've only done 10 movies. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the years it goes into um, doing that one project. While actors can do multiple projects or writers can write multiple things, when you're directing, it is a full time, it's your whole life,
Right.
So I would pick directing as the most difficult job of all those three.
So then I have a question upon that because my background's in film as well,
Oh, great.
and so I just wanted to know what do you think is like the hardest part about directing?
Again, I've only done it once. The the most difficult part of directing is, I think, when it comes to live action filmmaking, it's a team sport, right? So you're working with multiple department heads who each are running their own teams and getting people, and you're working with a lot of artists,
Right.
right? To get them to all unite and to basically manifest your vision.
Mm.
It's a real tall order, and I think it requires so many skills that are firing off at the same time. And with a lot of directors I've worked with, a lot of directors that I've asked a similar question to, what I've heard is that it's the amount of critical decisions that you need to make every single day, and um, depending on where you're at and your level of experience, maybe not all of your knee-jerk reactions and answers will be all correct or the best answer, but you're just doing the best that you can with the time that you have, and there's never enough time and there's never enough resources. And so I would say that it's the wrangling of people and motivating people, and also the very quick critical decision making that I would say are the most difficult parts of directing.
I can definitely see that. So, next question is also kind of within directing and writing. When you direct or write, how does your perspective as an actor shape your storytelling choices?
Oh, that's a great question too. When in development or in working with writers, because I run my own production company, Third Culture Content, and we work with a lot of writers and directors to craft the stories that they want to tell and all of that. So this process is called development, right? Where you're working on, it could start from an outline, or even less than that, your character breakdowns to your outlines to your scripts, and then eventually you want to be showing that to studios so you can get it made. Um, Definitely, whether I like it or not, when I approach development, I focus so much on character because characters is really what people, especially in television, they come back to see. They fall in love with a character and they want to fight for them or they want to root for them to even like in Breaking Bad, you want to see how bad Walter White can become,
Right.
and so crafting character, I think, comes quite naturally to me because I've been acting for a while, and I just enjoy that process because I think actors are constant observers and studiers of human behavior, and so to put that into crafting character, it's such a fun process and comes very naturally to me.
All right. Next question is, how do you approach preparing for a role? Do you lean more into research, instinct, or personal experience?
What I love about acting again too is that it's not a one size fits all process. I think that every role requires different tools to get there to craft that character, and that's why training is so important. I trained predominantly in Meisner technique, but I've also trained in like voice and movement for like an ex, Stella Adler coach, and just I've tried to just I think actors need to try and learn as many different kind of tools so that when the role calls upon you to live it, you have more tools and brushes if you're like using a paint analogy to paint your painting, and I love the approach of just every character is just it's like a blank canvas and you just need to try things, and the more time you can put into and the more time you have, which sometimes you don't have, you're not
Right.
afforded a lot, but if you have the luxury of having time, um, I think research and sitting with your character, sitting in your body with your character, sitting um, in different circumstances, and it's all a different way to craft your character. With Hollis specifically for Butterfly, because he was ex CIA, and it was written that he does a lot of manipulation and a lot of scheming, a lot of espionage. I I felt compelled to study how the CIA trains its operatives, not from a shooting guns and physical combat standpoint, but more of persuasion and manipulation. How do you get information from someone who is not willing to provide this information? And there's a lot of tools that are just in the public sphere that are available. So I it was really interesting to learn about those techniques and then kind of reverse engineered into how someone like myself, how I could be someone like that, and then uh, play my role, my function in this world that the creators of Butterfly made for all of us to play within. I think it really depends on the character and finding your own process to get there.
For sure, for sure. Because, like, if you don't know what the character does, how can you portray it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's gotta be authentic to yourself. You
Right.
can't just play a caricature of at the end of the day we're all playing human beings, right? So it's really gotta work that way.
For sure, for sure. All right. Now I have a question about when you were a director. So you directed a documentary for Discovery Channel that explores the global success of Korean entertainment entitled Korea Next: Finding Hallyu, which garnered you a Best Director nomination at the Asian Television Awards. Why did you pick that title, and what was the outcome you hoped for the documentary?
The documentary was a commissioned project by Discovery Channel Asia. They were looking to do a program with multiple documentaries out of Korea, and they really wanted an entertainment focused documentary. I already knew the head of production at Discovery Asia, and they actually asked me to submit a pitch to Discovery uh, to talk about my experiences in entertainment. That was kind of all it was. And I thought, man, I've never done directing. I've never done a documentary, but uh, I felt that there was something happening in Korea at the time. This is when Gangnam Style came
Mm.
out. This is when we were seeing Korean entertainment expand beyond Japan and Southeast Asia, and this is even before it really got big in China. Um, and so I was personally curious too, having grown up in the US and having started my career in Korea, of why is stuff in Korea connecting with these foreign audiences? Even it's an interesting thing when the artists putting out the work don't really understand it themselves either, and the fans, they are not understanding what is being said, but there's just this deep fandom, right? And it really, we saw it on the music. Now we really see it on the music side. So I thought, hey, this is a really interesting time to work with a studio who knows what they're doing, and try directing and to see what happens. And so the genesis of it was because I'm an insider outsider in the Korean entertainment business. I had, through my work in TV film, had built a network of artists, especially who I could call because they're my friends and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this doc. Would you guys want to talk about your experiences with this?" It just kind of lined up where I thought, "Okay, let's do this." And so the title was, instead of Hollywood, Hallyu, HALLYU, the is the Korean word that means Korean wave, which is what people in other parts of Asia were calling the spread of Korean entertainment globally. Now Hallyu has, I would say, reached a maximum pitch, with everything going on. But that was the kind of wordplay in the title,
Right.
was finding, instead of Hollywood, finding Hollywood. It's not a word that exists, but the idea behind it was that maybe a new entertainment mecca is rising out of the East, and now I would say, well, it's pretty undeniable at this point that Korea has delivered on
You were
that
before your
promise. So.
time.
Yeah, and it's funny. There was a moment in the doc where I'm friends with a an artist named Siwon Choi, who is in, arguably at the time, one of the most popular K-pop groups of all time, called Super Junior. And oh,
I
you
know
know,
Super
and
Junior.
yeah, and I did a drama with Shiwon, which funnily enough was like another action thriller, very much more focused on the gun. I was shooting a lot of guns in that show, called Athena, Goddess of War. But I met Shiwon and he agreed to be in the doc, and he said in his interview, and again, this is when Gangnam Style came out, right? So we're talking 2012, 2013. He actually said, I think in 5 years there's going to be a global star that will emerge out of Korea. And if you literally like do the math, 5 years later, BTS debuts.
Mm. And that's like when
And
they got
so,
really big in the States too.
yeah, exactly. And so, oh yeah, it wasn't when BTS debuted, but it's when they really started to get traction, like
Right, right.
internationally. And I'm not trying to say we were prophets, but
Hey, you could have been. She
yeah,
she
we
one
could have
called
been.
it.
I take like 0.0000001% credit for everything that BTS has accomplished. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Like I didn't, that's crazy. All right. So then one more before we get into Butterfly. What kind of stories do you think still need to be told about the Korean American experience?
Oh my gosh. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now. There's so many stories that are left to be told. I don't even think we've seen enough to know what's left, to even measure what's left. And I don't isolate it to just Korean American stories, but I think now that we live in the world of streaming, that just dominates the way that we consume television and film, and you you have the emergence of so many other cultures, Korea being at the forefront, who's really putting out work that is grabbing the attention of global worldwide audiences. I think that now we're in this new age. It's a big blue ocean of untold stories from many, many different cultures. And Korean American is one experience that I think, similar to Butterfly, it doesn't have to be a show about being Korean American. It's just a very entertaining spy action thriller that happens to be starring a Korean American, that happens to talk about a Korean family and the struggles within that family in this very high stakes world. I think that those types of stories, it doesn't matter the genre. It could be a horror movie, it could be a rom-com. I think that there's no way to even predict how many stories are left to tell. I can't express because I'm so optimistic about the future. Um, the ways that you can tell cross cultural stories now. There's just so many untold opportunities out there, and I feel very fortunate to be an actor and a producer with the experiences I've had until this point to really be able to do something now. And I attribute it to the hustle and the tenacity of people who've come earlier, like the Daniel Day Kims, who just went through a lot to get here, you
Right.
know? So I really just, as you can probably tell, I feel very grateful and fortunate that I get to be in this position now.
Yeah, and like it would also just be great to see like other cultures be able to come forward as well
Yeah.
in film. So I definitely
You
get
know,
that.
one thing we talked about when we did the show Dramaworld is at the time it was an American girl who loved Korean drama who gets magically transported into her favorite Korean drama through her phone, right? Why does the protagonist need to be uh, a white American girl? Like, why couldn't she? Is there another version of Dramaworld that's following a fan from Latin America or from France or like
Right.
why does it have to be or from Africa? There's so many, and that's just one show, right? I'm
Hmm.
just saying that now these things that would just seem very niche or I don't know who would pick that up or now it's just fair game. You just got to try and put things out there, put things on paper, and then you really don't know where it can go now.
All right, so let's get into Butterflies. So in Butterfly, you play Hollis, which you kind of gave us a little bit about him. He's an American-based operator tied to the Western Intelligence Network, working closely under Juno. How did you approach developing the character, his planning, psychology, and motivations, while also blending the sleek bilingual aspects of the role with your own cross-cultural background?
So Hollis is ex-CIA and head of the Seoul office of the Caddis Group, which is the spy agency that Juno Lund and David Jung, played by Piper Perabo and Daniel Day Kim, co-founded. And if you watch the show, you'll see the business partnership didn't go so well, and now he's come back to save his daughter, who's now the number one assassin at our agency. And so, in preparing for Hollis, I did a lot of research on how the CIA trains their operatives from a psychological standpoint. There's this training technique they call RICE, which is the ways that you can find a source that you need information from and get that source to talk. So RICE is resources, which is like bribery,
Mm,
ideology, which is the strongest motivation, where you convince someone that you're living on the same mission so that they'll just continue to feed you information. Uh, Coercion, which is the one you see in a lot of spy shows where it's like gun to the head,
mm,
tell me or I'll kill you kind of thing. That's actually the least effective method because it's kind of one and done. You've lost your trust from your source. And
right.
then E is ego, where it's flattery, it's complimentary, it's kind of falls between ideology and coercion as far as like effectiveness. So I did a lot of this kind of research where it was interesting, and this is all public knowledge. I didn't have any like special into the CIA. um, they didn't hook me up with that, but it's all out there, and it was really interesting because while there's a lot of stuff that happens on the field in Butterfly, for Hollis, so much of it was information gathering, sharing, and being delicate with how to turn people, but not too much where you lose them, and you never want to compromise the mission. And of course, our ultimate goal is to stop David Jung on his tear through Caddis, right? And
Right.
so, and how it played into my biculturalness. Well, it Butterfly is the very first American series that was 100% shot in South Korea, and so it was there were so many firsts with this show, but that is one of the biggest ones. You had American showrunners with American actors, with Korean stars, with department heads that were all Korean. We were running a bilingual set, and so it my biculturalness and my bilingual ability played a huge role in um, really the execution of production and the show, because just communication, right? Just being able to understand everything that's being said on set, and I try my best to help, those who the English speakers who couldn't speak Korean to understand everything. And um, it was funny because a lot of the crew worked on Dramaworld, and so it was almost like a reunion of sorts too, of getting the gang back together. And it was, in a lot of ways, Butterfly was this culmination of a lot of combined experiences, and I was so happy that I could put them to use on that show.
That's great. Also, I want to add this as a sidebar comment. I was actually living in Korea when this was filmed, and I'm pretty sure I saw some of the filming happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. We were all over the country, so I wouldn't be surprised because it was not a quiet production, as you can
Right,
imagine.
right,
There were a
right.
lot of it was a lot of explosions and car chases and screaming and yelling, and
Yeah.
so
Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty
Was it
sure
in
I saw
Seoul?
it.
Maybe
Um,
maybe it was in Seoul, right?
yeah,
Or
I think so. Cause like I was actually located in Ilsan, but I would go to Seoul every weekend.
oh yeah,
So
the stuff in Seoul were really big setups, and they
yeah.
were closing off big streets and all that. So uh, yeah, you should have come and say hi
If only I
next
knew.
time.
If only I knew.
We'll see for season two, right?
Right, right,
If
right, for sure.
fingers crossed we get there. Yes.
All right. So then, the arrival of Butterfly coincides with surging global interest in Korean culture and media. We kind of touched up on this. How did it feel to be a part of a series that taps into that cultural momentum?
It's hard to put into words because when we did our LA screening, Daniel Day Kim actually said this when he was uh, addressing the audience, that he didn't think, and he was the main producer on this project. He didn't think the show would have gotten the green light 5 or 10 years ago. So I think that um, just the fact that it got made is significant in and of itself, and the way it got made, with the cast being predominantly Asian, but being a predominantly English language American, full blown American studio backed series. And it's a big show. It's a big action show. This isn't, we're not talking like kind of some small indie film. There was a lot of resources that were put into this, and so that in and of itself is significant. And I think that now, seeing how audiences have been responding to the show, it really does tap into, and I think indicates how much the industry has evolved. And it really is. It's I've now been in Korea for 15 years, and I again saw kind of the rise of Korean entertainment, but we're also seeing these amazing Korean American stories in the US, and I really think Butterfly is the culmination of all of these things that led to a moment where a studio would say yes with a star like Daniel Day Kim. It all, there's so many pieces that need to line up for something like this to get the green light,
Right.
and so it's extremely significant on many different levels.
All right. Last question about Butterfly. In your experience, how do you see your role in Butterfly and similar cross cultural projects helping to shape opportunities for Korean American actors in both markets?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yes.
You asked some big questions, Robyn.
I do my research.
You do your research. You're good at your job. I I'm grateful to have been able to do what I've done so far, and I think that we're all we're all helping each other in the work that we put out, because when it comes to the next role or the next project or the actors coming up who are breaking into the business, the reference points really matter. You know, I've talked about this in other interviews that Crazy Rich Asians was an inflection point in Hollywood. You can see the clear difference of the number of projects and opportunities for Asian American actors and talent behind the camera too, after that film came out, and it's because there was something to point to say that, see that that's something that did well and people liked it, and you know, and I hope that Butterfly can be yet another project that people can point to and say, see, look, that no one thought that what this kind of show could exist in the spy action genre. What about that show? You know,
Yeah.
and to be able to be a part of that and to continue to develop and produce and act in roles that can continue to push that narrative along. I want to personally get to a place where it's not even a point of conversation. It just all exists. You know, I'm a biracial person. My father's from London, and my mother's from Korea, and I think the biracial experience is different from the Asian American experience, which we don't have to get into now. But all in all, to say that I think we're all just living our lives, and we're all just we have these different stories we want to tell. I want to do my part, you know, and to just continue to do what I can do with all of my capacities to hopefully I want to just do more, play more characters with these types of complexities and tell these kind of stories where people who come up can point to them and say, I can do something because I saw this on TV and I saw that in the movie theater, and because I didn't have that as much growing up, and so it means a tremendous deal that I can be a part of things that empower others, you know, because it is really strength in numbers.
It is. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely wish you luck in that endeavor because
Thank you.
that's a dope like way to think of everything. Like I wow. I'm
Thanks so
mind blown.
much.
All right, so now no more hard questions. Now we get into the more fun and easygoing questions. These are the fan focused questions I mentioned earlier. So the first one is: as someone who split their work between the U.S. and Korea, what are a few fun cultural differences fan might be surprised by?
Cultural differences between the US and Korea.
Yeah,
Hmm. When it comes to production or just generally,
just
like
generally.
life? Oh man, wow. How long do you have? There's, it's, I mean, you know, US and Korea, they come from, let's just go to the language. I mean, it's, you have a Latin based language and then you have a language that was rooted in Mandarin, you know, so
Mhm.
there's the way, let's just start with the grammar
Oh my
of the
god.
languages, you know. But I mean, really, it plays, I really think that the way to immerse yourself into another culture is really to learn the language and then to eat a lot of the food.
Oh yes.
um and I think that uh I think in Korea, I was just explaining this on an interview earlier, that um, a lot of things are shared, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a very familial culture, where you share your food. You know, you in the early days when I was doing dramas and films in Korea, actors that I'd be working with, we would help the crew move furniture in between setups, and it was just about what can we all do to get across the finish line together, you know?
Mm.
I think in the US there's real empowerment in the individual, and there you see incredible entrepreneurship in the US, and you see these very powerful, prominent people come out, and these thinkers and movers and shakers that really they innovate, and they change. Like one person's thought can
Right.
change just a whole generation, you know. And so um, I think that that would be maybe the biggest difference. I would say would be kind of a culture that's more focused on the individual excellence versus a more kind of communal existence. You
Mm.
know, Korea is just a very small country, right? And so it is, even though Seoul, you know, it's the population is tens of millions of people. Sometimes you'll go around Seoul and just you'll run into a lot of people that you know, and it's just it's almost this like very big neighborhood vibe, you know. And I would say another big difference is in Korea there is a real focus on kind of hierarchy as it comes to age and title, you
Mm.
know, and so elders, right? The
Mm.
respect for elders. One of my favorite things about Korean weddings is that there's always a moment where the bride and groom they bow to the ground, you know, to both sets of parents,
Mhm.
and it always like brings tears to my eyes. When I started going to Korean weddings, I thought, you know, it can't be every single wedding that this happens, but no, it is. It's literally every single wedding that is, and it's always the most precious moment. And I
Mhm.
think that says something about there is a respect for just having lived longer and been around. Um, it's still uncomfortable for me to, I've never called my parents by their first name, for example, you know, even though it probably wouldn't be that weird. But it's that balance, you know. I think that there's pros and cons to both sides of that, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It was funny while I was writing this question, I was like, I have a feeling he's gonna mention language.
Sorry.
But it's true because like the grammar, like as someone who like also knows Korean, like the grammar
Oh,
is
amazing. You
yeah.
speak Korean? That's
Oh,
great. Oh my God.
yeah.
우리 한국말로 하시죠, 그러면.
아니요, 부끄러워. And so it's like definitely like the grammar is very different, and like
Yeah.
with me being in Korea as an English teacher, it was like really difficult to explain that difference of grammar. And yeah,
It's flipped basically because
yeah,
the verb comes last in a sentence in Korean, right?
yeah,
While it's like Korean sentences are subject, object, verb, while like English would be like subject, verb,
or object,
object, right? And
yeah,
that alone is a huge difference. And then when you play with the suffixes of Korean lines, depending on who you're talking to,
mm,
right? Like there's the informal, then there's the formal, then there's like the very, very formal. You know, there's all these different ways that you can end your sentences. It's really it's a beautiful yet complicated language.
it is. And like the one thing I always like struggled on when I was living in Korea was like just like a lot of people they don't really care in Korea. They don't really care about the grammar. They're like they just see like a foreigner talking Korean. They're like, oh, and so
That
like
look, you've seen that look. You're like
right.
cab drivers,
Oh,
restaurant
한국 알아요?
owners.
like literally, like yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the language is like it's very beautiful, but it's also like really hard to learn when you know English. It's like uh,
Hmm.
definitely, and then
Yeah, when I was in language school in Korea, the Chinese students and the Japanese students, man, did they picked up Korean so fast
mm,
because the root language is Chinese, but then also the grammar's basically it's very similar to
similar.
Japanese, right? So, and then I'm just the American student over here, like, what can we? Can you say that again? You know, and I get that because but it's really fun to stretch yourself. I commend you
Right.
for learning Korean. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's, it's nice, but then it's gone to the point where now Korean is running in my head more than English, and I'm like, oh no, this is not good.
Just embrace it. Embrace it. Like you I think that when someone who speaks multiple languages, like you get to explore different parts of your personality because
Mm,
they show, right? I'm sure when
yeah,
you speak in Korean, a different kind of personality comes out, right? Like,
right.
so it's, I find that it's nothing to be afraid of. Just let it happen. It's a fun part of being a person.
For sure. All
Yeah.
right. So now, what's one behind the scenes moment from Butterfly that you can share with us?
Hmm. Well, this was just fun. It wasn't actually on set. It was the celebration at the rap party. I loved when, again, bringing people from all these different cultures together. Uh, everyone, I don't know if it's specifically the Butterfly crew, but man, everyone loves karaoke. I mean, regardless of their
Considering that's the first
language.
scene that comes up on the.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well, okay. Yes, I've heard Daniel sing Killer's Mr. Brightside a number of times, we'll say. But uh, but it's not just him, it's just all of us. It was fun because man, I feel like karaoke is a real amazing equalizer.
For real.
It brings people together, and that was a really beautiful memory. Production was just, man, I do have a lot of stories from there, and it was a serious show, right?
Mm,
So and there was a lot to shoot. So uh, while there are jokes and things thrown on set, I think when we wrapped and we all celebrated the completion together, you really got to see people let loose.
mm,
We're not all in the same scenes together, so it's kind of like this way to bring everyone together, and uh, that is a memory I'll never forget. Was like everyone just having a good time with the writers, the directors, the actors, and I mean, I don't even know how some of these American people were singing Korean songs at one point. And I don't ever think I saw you speak Korean before, but now you're like belting a Korean ballad. It's
jeez.
just, people pick up the language quickly, I guess. So
Mm,
that was a very, very fun memory.
well, it's
I
like.
think we all realized just how unique of an experience
Mm,
it was to have, and we all just, we're just enjoying the moment. So,
for sure. And like norebang is like a big thing in
oh
Korea.
man,
It's a huge,
yeah.
huge thing in Korea.
What I love about karaoke rooms in Korea is that you go with your families. Like
Oh yeah.
you, I love my mom will visit Korea. She'll meet her school or elementary school friends, and they'll want to go to karaoke, and then they want the kids to come, so the kids perform, and it's this. It's not like just crazy partying, raging kind of. It's like let's spend time as a family and have fun and sing to each other, and it's there's a wholesome vibe to it, that's different from I think what I've experienced in the US with karaoke, which is let's not be sober at all and try to go as crazy as possible. I love that about going to noraebang in Korea.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we kind of like touched up about Korean and English. So you speak both Korean and English fluently. Do you have a favorite language and or expression in either language that you like to use during filming or on set just for fun?
Oof, man, that's a really good question too. Gosh. uh wow. I will say that when it comes to words about emotion,
Mm,
um, so let's say not one word comes to mind. I mean, there's words we use a lot, like "수고하셨습니다." You can't
mm,
really say you say that at the end of every day on set. It literally means like you have suffered well, but it just means like everyone did a good job,
yeah.
or like 고생하셨습니다 is like you have suffered well.
Mm,
Uh, but I like that in Korean language, let's say you have the word nervous, right, in English, there's a lot of words for emotions
mm,
in Korean. And I I didn't really understand it at first when I was reading Korean scripts,
Mm.
but I learned like, oh, like if there's like uh, there's like 불안하다, or uh, there's like 초조하다, or there's like multiple words that can mean like worried,
Yeah.
but there's this, but it's those nuances that I think when it comes to a lot of like legendary Korean actors, because I can kind of think now the word that they're thinking when that emotion, it almost creates more detail,
Mm.
in and nuance in their performances. English is my first language, so I love speaking English too. There's plenty of California slang that I could throw around. I still say dude a lot, and uh, things like that. It comes back more when I visit LA, but it's funny, like thinking about words that you can express yourself better in some language and better in another,
Yeah.
So.
Sure. Next question. If you weren't pursuing acting or filmmaking, what's something you'd love to be doing instead?
Ooh, man, this career demands so much of anyone. I feel that pursues it, that you almost have to have a no plan B mentality. Um, when I was growing up, I did the only job my parents told me that I said I wanted to do before I said I wanted to be an actor was a scientist. So this was when I was in elementary school. I do I do like to explore how things are made,
Mm.
and uh, I wouldn't say that I've done a deep dive on it, but I do. I'll go with that. I think that, or man, uh, I would love to explore painting and that kind of thing, but I haven't. I love to observe, but I'll go with scientist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very sophisticated answer there.
Oh man, yeah, I guess so.
And then this is kind of a sidebar question because I've been told, are you a fan of Big Bang?
Oh, I mean, they are in my book, and I came up, at a different generation. So Big Bang, Super Junior were the biggest groups. 21.
Mm.
That's kind of my generation of K-pop, and I think that Big Bang's impact on Korean entertainment and just where K-pop is now, it's an undeniable stamp, and I love the classic Big Bang songs, and I will revisit them sometimes, here and there, in norebang. But yes, uh, I would say yes. I am a fan. Yeah,
I am also a fan of Big Bang, so
yeah. I don't know. I just haven't seen a group that has come by that's been. I mean, definitely, there's been groups that have come by that have exploded, right, in
mm,
popularity, but they hold a very special place in my heart. So
as they should. As they should.
yeah.
All right. Do you have any non-series projects that you are currently working on that you can speak about at this time?
Hmm. Well, this one's been announced, and we are actively working on it. There's a, a big Korean drama called King the Land,
Mm.
that came out in 2023, and my company, Third Culture Content, we are adapting it for the U.S. right now, and so we're super excited about the way that we would like to tell this story, for like an English language audience, and uh, I think that there's a lot of steps still to get there, but so far I'm very proud of what we've been able to put together, and I hope that we will be able to talk about that project much more soon.
I'm excited for it. And
Yeah.
last question. Is there anything you would like to say to your fans and the KCrush readers that are here? You can say it in English, Korean, both, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay. Maybe I'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Um, I I think that there's fans of Korean entertainment who've really been there since what I would consider like day one, and before the obvious global craze of Korean everything now. I whenever I meet fans who watched my earlier television series and really you could tell have been there since the beginning, and even before me. I really treasure those fans because it's when anything becomes just like so massively popular, it can kind of feel like it's drowned out, like you're now one of just like so many that it doesn't maybe your voice isn't as loud as it felt before. But I will never forget the days where there were these people, non-Koreans, who would be telling their friends and even seen as weird at times, like, why are you so into this like Korean drama
Mm,
stuff? And they're like, no, 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 this is the most amazing thing for these reasons, and you got to watch this. And I I really I feel so grateful and thankful to those fans who, I really think we're here because of them. Like,
mm,
uh, I think that I think the guys at BTS would agree that it really has been this kind of grassroots movement for well over a decade. And so I I consider KCrush, and a lot of your your readers, to be in that group of kind of the early adopters, the early fans of Korean drama who were on the blogs, were on. This is before all the craze that we see now. And I just wanted to say on a personal level, like, really thank you. And it's really because of that enthusiasm that we are able to continue to do what we do. And I will speak on behalf of even a lot of my uh, Korean, actor and singer friends, that they they really they live for the fans,
mm.
and I would say that it's entertainment, right? But it's also connection. And I hope that, now I will switch to Korean. 앞으로도 더 멋진 모습을 보여드릴 테니, 어, 계속 그 응원해 주시고, 사랑해 주시고, 어, 앞으로도 열심히 하겠습니다. So I'll just leave it at
Fighting!
that, saying thank you for your support and love, and I hope to continue to show you more things that I hope that you'll enjoy, you know to be entertained by.
Awesome. Well, those
Yeah.
are all the questions I have for you today. So thank you so much, Sean, for sitting down and chatting with me. Is there anything that you would like to end us off on before we?
Thank you, KCrush. Thank you, Robyn. I really appreciate the work you guys do, and I really hope that we can speak again soon.
Cheers. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye.